Everyone. Hope everyone's doing well today. I just wanted to touch base with you and check in. I want to talk to you about judgment because boy, is there a lot of that going around. Not like there ever wasn't a time that there was a lot of that going around, but there's a lot of it going around right now. And I want to read you a couple quotes. One is about judgment, one is about discernment and what the difference is. Judgment traps you within the limitations of your comparison and experience. It inhibits freedom, and that's by Willie Stargell, I think. This one I don't know who it's from, but it's anonymous, but I really like it. This is about discernment. The practice of discernment is part of higher consciousness. Discernment is not just a step from judgment, it's the opposite of judgment. Judgment reveals your weaknesses. Discernment reveals what you've mastered. And the reason I like that is because it's impossible not to judge, but we can, because there's reasons, and we'll get into that. There are reasons why we judge, but being able to master it and understand and change that negative judgment into discernment is so critical. For your own well-being, for the well-being of the people around you, it's a really important, it's not just a skill, it's something you do as you gain knowledge. But one of the reasons we judge, I think it's important to understand why we do it. It's because it helps us make sense of our environment, right? It helps us make sense of what's happening. So as soon as we ask the question or we make the statement, so if we say, why is this happening? Or that's happening because the minute you ask the question, your brain has to answer it. Your brain doesn't have a sense of humor. So if you say, why is this happening? Or why are those people that way? Or why did they do that? Your brain has to answer that. And that's why it helps us move through the world, right? So it's a necessary thing. And it's also important for our safety. Discernment is critical for safety. Being able to discern right from wrong, safe from unsafe. One of the big reasons most things boil down to primal instincts, right? We need to know we're safe. And so we make judgments against an individual or a group of people because it feels unsafe to us. And so that's really important to understand. This is something that, everyone does it, but I think some people are harsher than others. And I was really bad with this, and I took a course. It was really, really great. I took a course from Byron Katie, and she has an amazing book. If you haven't read it, it's fantastic. It's called Loving What Is. And they really dig into this idea of judgment and how we can sort of transform it into a more positive tool instead of something that creates a lot of anger and hatred and, within ourselves and our societies and our families. And it was just so important. And one of the reasons it's so important is because oftentimes the filter that we see the world through is not only how we see ourselves more harshly. And so we see ourselves more intensely, more harshly than the way we see other people. But that judgment that we're using is what we're using to judge ourselves. And so that's one of the reasons it's just so important. And there's a difference between character judgment and situational or circumstantial judgment. So judgment about a situation, or that happened because blah, blah, in the moment this thing was going on. Let's just say someone was drinking and driving and they got in an accident, and it's like, oh, well, they did that because in the moment they were drinking, versus that person is bad. That you see the judgment and you go, well, that person is bad. They've always been bad. They'll always be bad. There's no hope for them. That's a character judgment. So an individual like circumstantial judgment versus a character judgment. But so many people feel more comfortable jumping to character judgments because it's just what we've done to feel safe throughout the world, because we're not taking the time to question our thoughts. And so taking the time to question your thoughts is so critical if we want to minimize just the anger and hatred that we're seeing. And so it's really interesting. I just find all this so interesting. So in my youth, I'll give you an example. So in my youth, one of the reasons I really love Byron Katie's work is because in my youth, I had this idea that people judge me for the way that I looked. I judged myself for my appearance, and I began to see the world through that lens. Does that make sense? And so that's why it can be so difficult. And so that's just one example. You can apply the same thing to yourself. I was or I am a certain way, and you'll begin to see the world through that filter. You either think that people are judging you because of it, or you're judging them because of it, whether it's appearance or whether it's, drinking, or whether, I don't care what it is, whether it is money, if it's financial status, you'll start judging other people the way you see yourself. And so it's just a really important thing to learn. But you have to consciously change it if you want to. And I know for me, I consciously made the effort to change that because I was miserable. Basically because I was a miserable person at one point. And I realized that those thoughts were completely ruining my life, the quality of my own life. And so I did a values workshop and I really learned how to focus. Like I tried to figure out what is it that why am I seeing other people this way? What is it that I can do differently? And it boiled down to values. And so before I thought appearances were like the end all. Well, imagine what happens when you're 23 and you think that that's what you're valued for and you get cancer. Well, you realize how quickly that everything you've based your value on disappears. And the thought that I had that's what I need to be or whatever it is, you quickly realize how temporary and foolish it is. And so, so you can't, if you want to be happy, you got to take a look at your values. So my values, I took a look at them and I changed them. My most important values, higher than anything for me, are God, health, family. And by changing it to God, health, and family, notice that it was health and not, I changed it not to appearance or, the way I look, it was my health. And I'm going to begin to see the world through that. I'm going to begin to see other people through that. So if it doesn't fit into one of those three, it's not going to be as important to me. And so that was really transformational for me. And it's just, I want to do this, and this is going to be this is going to be hard because there are a lot of people out there right now making a lot of calls, a lot of judgment calls about a lot of people. And I'm not going to be political and choose a side. I already said I wasn't going to do that, but I want to just do this. So I worked with Daniel and I together for a couple of years. Actually, I've done it with a lot of people now. Coaching some addicts, okay, a group of, in an addiction center. And for me, that was one of the things that was one of my big judgments. So this is gonna make me look really unattractive, but I'm just gonna say it. Because of my own history, because of my past as a child, addicts were something I didn't trust. I didn't feel safe. I didn't think you could ever trust them. And that was how I saw addicts, which made me, of course, interact with people in the world. And that's because of the addiction issues in my own family. And so imagine what happened when I had to, or when I was called to, if you will, work with addicts for 2 years. And I thought God picked the wrong person. I'm like, yep, nope, you picked the wrong person this time. But I realized that's coming from a really hard place from my youth, right? And so I want to share with you what I learned, because becoming aware of it and being able to question it is really important. And we've shared these questions with you in the turnaround a lot, but I want to do this in the context of judgment. And I want you to be able to, you'll see, you can plug in almost any word, any group of people, any thought you have about judgment, and it will work. So it's really interesting. So let's take the 4 questions, Byron Katie's 4 questions. And you've heard us say this before. The first question is, I'm going to use an example from someone who actually wrote in. So this is an interesting one. Christians are dangerous, right? That was an actual person said that. Christians are dangerous. I'm going to read my notes here because this is what someone actually wrote in. It's really important. Christians are dangerous. And so I just asked them, I helped guide them through the questions. I said, Christians are dangerous. Is that true? Yes, that's true. That's what they first said was, yes, that's true. Christians are dangerous. In my experience, they've been dangerous to me. Okay. The second question, can I absolutely know that's true? Christians are dangerous. All Christians are dangerous. Can I know that that's true? After a pause, the person said, no. I can't know for sure that every Christian is dangerous. It's been my experience. So I said, how do you feel when you have that thought? Here's what they said. How do you feel when you have the thought that Christians are dangerous? They said angry, stuck, judged, judgmental, attacked, threatened, alienated, shamed, and powerless. Well, no wonder. they don't like Christians, right? If that's how they feel when they think of Christians, of course you're not going to like them. And so I said, how do you treat yourself and others when you have the thought that Christians are dangerous? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat other people? How do you treat Christians or other people around you when you have that thought? And here was the list. Critical, judgmental, defensive, distant, and I demonize them. That was a beautiful word, demonize. I want you to just follow me here for a minute. And I said, who would you be without the thought? That's the next question. Who would you be if you couldn't have the thought that Christians are dangerous? I would be unafraid, peaceful, curious. And now you keep in mind, this takes a while to work through this. I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version. But unafraid, if I couldn't think that Christians were dangerous, I wouldn't be afraid of them. I would be peaceful. I would be curious. I'd be curious. That's a great word, right? So instead of angry, I would be curious. I'd be hopeful. Possibly I would be seen and heard. That's a really good one. And I would be open to discussion. So do you see how powerful it is to pay attention and identify and be aware of the thoughts you're having and why you're having the judgments you do? So then there's the turnaround. This is my favorite part. You turn it to its opposite, and you usually find 3 turnarounds, okay? Christians are dangerous. What's the opposite of that? Christians aren't dangerous. And then what you do is you ask the person to give you 3 examples. Immediately they're going to want to go, yeah, but, let me tell you, stay focused. 3 examples, and they can be tiny. I don't care if it's when you were in Sunday school when you were 4. I just want 3 examples of when Christians weren't dangerous to you. You drove by a church and no one came out and tried to mug you. Okay, I don't care what it is. What we're doing here is we are not trying to argue with your thoughts. We're trying to crack them so that you can open your mind to possibilities, if that makes sense. So 3 examples of when Christians are not dangerous. That's the first thing. So that was one of their examples, was Sunday school when I was little. And I said, what's another one? Can't really think of one. Not one ever? Oh, well, I do remember when a group of Christians brought food to our family. Right? So do you see where we're going with this? Okay, and they didn't hurt you. No, they didn't hurt me. I'm going to jump to the second one. So what's the second turnaround on this? So you see where I'm going with that. You find 3 small examples. The second turnaround to Christians are dangerous is, so you do it once to its opposite, which is they're not dangerous. You do it once to yourself and once to others. So the second turnaround, which is to yourself, is I am dangerous. Ouch. Ouch, right? I am dangerous. And you ask yourself, you have to sit with it for a minute because most people want to resist it. I am dangerous. Is that true or truer than the first statement? When you have the thought that Christians are dangerous, when you are, in your words, angry, stuck, judged, judgmental, attacked, threatened, alienated, shamed, and powerless, are you dangerous toward other people? And they'll usually stop and they're like, oh, yes, I am. If I'm being really honest, I am. I can be pretty caustic, right? So then you give 3 examples, 3 small examples. And then the third turnaround that this person came up with was, because you turn it to others. It's danger. Christians are dangerous. Remember the original thought is it's dangerous to believe that all Christians are dangerous. That was beautiful. That's money right there. So that's really important, right? To be able to question your thoughts. But let me now take it one step further. I want you to replace the word Christians with black people. Black people are dangerous. I want you to replace the word Christians with police officers. All police officers are dangerous. I want you to replace the word Christians with atheists, Muslims, Jews. I don't care what you replace. Take any group and replace it, and you're going to get a similar outcome. You feel what? Angry, judged, judgmental, attacked, threatened, alienated, shamed, powerless, afraid. You might throw afraid in there. And who would you be if you didn't have the thought? Unafraid, peaceful, curious, hopeful, possibly seen and heard, open to discussion. I love that one. Open to discussion. But the one I really want to focus on is what this person said. I demonize them. The minute I have the thought, all Christians are bad, all Black people are bad, all police officers are bad, all atheists are bad. I don't care what group we're talking about. The minute you have the thought that they're all bad, you demonize them. And when you demonize someone, you dehumanize them. And you make it very easy to just inflict all of your thoughts and feelings as opposed to listening. There's no discussion. No one's curious, no one's listening, no one's talking. And so that's why I love this exercise. And I did a 9-day workshop on this. I mean, that's how important it was. But it's also because when we have those thoughts about other people, we are judging ourselves harshly. When we judge others harshly, we judge ourselves harshly. Now, discernment and judgment are not the same thing. Discernment is a really good thing. You want to know when something's safe. You want to know when it's okay to do something. You want to know all those things. But you want to be careful between judgment and discernment, right? I use my discernment every day. I feel like I've got very good intuition about, knowing what's safe and what's not, because I'm running it through a different filter than just judging. And we all judge. So I have to catch myself all the time. But that's the point, is I try to catch myself. And I'm hoping that you guys will too. And that's the challenge, is because you can't open yourself to change. And we can't become better if we are stuck in judgment, and it hurts you more than it hurts anybody. So judgment traps you within the limitations of your comparison and experience. It inhibits. Super interesting. And it's easy to call people bad. It's harder to ask why. And you may never come to full agreement. You may never fully agree or see the whole world through those people or them or whoever they are through their perspective, but at least you can open dialogue, right? At least we can give people the common courtesy to be able to talk and to listen. So just my 2 cents, and I wanted to share with you what I learned because it was life-changing for me. Life-changing to be able to just master those questions. All right, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.